You've almost certainly seen these photographs online. They have long since become a global meme. Tough-looking guys in tracksuits, women in extravagant dresses holding champagne glasses, children with serious expressions, and all of them are posing against the backdrop of the same hypnotic, colorful object. A huge carpet with an oriental pattern that instead of lying on the floor is somehow hanging on the wall. To a Western viewer, this scene looks like the embodiment of absurdity and a peculiar Slavic aesthetic. After all, everywhere else in the world, carpets are meant to be spread across the floor so people can walk on them. And let's be honest, it feels wonderful to get out of bed in the morning and sink your feet into a soft, warm pile instead of cold tile. So why did millions of people in the Soviet Union obsessively nail carpets to their walls? At the very least, it seems strange and often downright funny. But don't rush to laugh. Behind that woolen rectangle lies an astonishing story of survival inside concrete boxes, a hidden economy, social engineering, and people's desperate attempt to preserve their privacy in a country where walls, quite literally, seemed not to exist. And if you had looked behind the carpet hanging in millions of Soviet apartments, you would have seen something the owners were embarrassed to reveal. They often felt extremely awkward if one of their guests suddenly decided to peek behind it and find out what was hidden there. We'll tell you about that as well. To understand the phenomenon of carpets on walls, we need to travel back in time to the Soviet Union of the 1960s. The country faced a monumental challenge, relocating millions of people from cramped communal apartments and wooden barracks into homes of their own. Across the country, the famous prefabricated apartment blocks, the so-called Khrushchevkas, began to rise. Housing was built at an incredible pace, but this architectural revolution had a dark side, a catastrophic decline in quality. Now imagine a harsh Siberian winter. The heating season lasted from late October until mid-April, yet the radiators simply couldn't produce enough heat. The concrete panels often froze completely through. And this is where we encounter the harsh geometry of everyday Soviet life. According to the strict construction standards, a bedroom for one person measured only 6 square meters. Sleeping next to that concrete was physically unbearable. Just try touching such a wall with your shoulder, you'd immediately pull away. It was simply too cold. The carpet came to the rescue. Its thick woolen fabric created a layer of insulating air between the person and the wall. It dramatically reduced heat loss and helped keep people from freezing during cold nights. Soviet parents hung carpets beside children's beds for one simple, practical reason: to keep their children warmer. In the most literal sense, the carpet helped warm an entire generation growing up. But the cold was only half the problem. The second disaster in those apartments was the acoustics. The new buildings had virtually no sound insulation whatsoever. You could lie in your bed and hear, in the smallest detail, your neighbor on the other side of the thin partition coughing, listening to music, or swearing at the top of their lungs. In a country where personal space had been suppressed for decades, people desperately wanted to keep the details of their private lives from reaching strangers' ears. The carpet became the perfect acoustic shield. Its heavy pile absorbed reverberation beautifully, eliminated the hollow echo of empty rooms, and muffled sound. You might ask, if what you really needed was insulation and soundproofing, why not simply hang a thick blanket, heavy fabric, or, at worst, a sheet of foam on the wall? This is where we enter the peculiar reality of the Soviet economy, the economy of shortages. In the USSR, a high-quality wool carpet was an item of enormous luxury. It was a clear indicator of financial status. Let's look at the numbers. In the 1970s, the average engineer earned around 120 to 170 rubles per month. A good carpet, however, cost anywhere from 150 to 800 rubles. And in some cases, its price reached the staggering sum of 1,500 rubles. People saved for months to buy one, spent enormous amounts of money, waited years for their turn, and took out loans. Others tried to obtain a carpet outside the official waiting lists through personal connections, relying on black market dealers or well-connected acquaintances. Now think about this. If you had spent 6 months worth of savings on a piece of woven wool, would you really throw it on the floor? On the floor, it would quickly wear out. The pile would be trampled flat, stains and snags would appear. A wall, on the other hand, preserved it. By hanging a carpet on the wall, a family wasn't just insulating the house, they were displaying their wealth. It was a message to every guest. Our finances are in good shape. We are successful and prosperous. Carpets were carefully preserved, given as wedding gifts, and passed down through generations as the family's most treasured heirloom. But there was another reason, hidden deep beneath the pile. That reason was Soviet wallpaper and construction flaws. The fact is that high-quality wallpaper in the USSR was in terrible short supply. What people managed to buy was usually thin paper with unstable dye that could run from a single touch of wallpaper paste. A carpet hung behind a sofa or armchair protected those precious wallpapers from being rubbed and worn. On top of that, Soviet builders, racing to finish projects as quickly as possible, rarely left perfectly even walls behind. Corners were crooked and the joints between concrete panels were rough. Properly leveling the walls in a Khrushchevka apartment would have taken weeks. Resourceful citizens simply covered these construction embarrassments with massive wall units and enormous carpets. And when homeowners wanted to save a little money during renovations, they simply didn't wallpaper the space behind the carpet. That's why apartment owners became very nervous whenever someone tried to pull the carpet away from the wall to peek behind it. Missing wallpaper revealed either the owner's stinginess or their difficult financial situation. The carpet became the main character of the Soviet interior. This household item gave rise to genuine rituals of its own. To hang it without the heavy weight tearing the edges, men drilled into concrete walls, hammered in wooden slats, and distributed the load across hidden loops. Taking care of the carpet became a family event. It was vacuumed with loud Chaika or Vicker vacuum cleaners that echoed throughout the entire house. But the greatest ritual took place in winter. The whole family carried the heavy, rolled-up carpet into the yard, spread it out on clean, crunchy snow, and took turns beating it with special plastic carpet beaters, allowing the snow crystals to absorb the dust. The smell of icy freshness that came from the carpet still lives in the memories of millions of people who lived in the USSR. And of course, the carpet was the backdrop to life itself. Every important event unfolded in front of it. Taking photographs against its patterns was an essential ritual. Weddings, military send-offs, birthdays, New Year's celebrations. Every holiday was documented in front of that patterned wall. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, carpets became a symbol of petty bourgeois taste. The drabness of Soviet life and provincialism turning into the subject of jokes and internet memes. People took them down en masse, moved them to their summer cottages, or simply threw them away. But history is cyclical. Today, in the age of minimalism and anonymous Scandinavian interiors, designers are once again turning their attention to the Soviet wall carpet. Vintage carpets are being snapped up at online auctions, returning to apartments not as harsh insulation, but as ironic art objects and bold, unconventional accent pieces. So, the Soviet wall carpet is not a ridiculous relic of the past. It is a brilliant survival tool. It is a monument to human ingenuity, a symbol of comfort, a thermal shield, and the keeper of the greatest family secrets of an entire vanished empire. And what about you? Would you hang a carpet on the wall in your living room or bedroom? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.